Good evening. I'm going to read in a moment from Demelza, and I'm going to read from book 2, and it's chapter 4, part of chapter 4. But before I do, I'm going to show you one of the front covers and a couple of pictures inside from the 4th to the 10th of October 1975, price 10p, the copy of the Radio Times when the first Poldark saga began. Voila, here it is. Oops, let's just get it for you. There it is. Ooh, there we are. The original Ross and Demelza. What a beautiful cloak she had on there. Looks to me to be velvet. Okay, how lovely she was, and how I adored her. There's a couple of other lovely images of Demelza in here, as well as a lovely image of Elizabeth. Here we are. I'll just turn the pages. Look at that beautiful picture of Jill Townsend as Elizabeth, and there we have Harrod Reef as the original Demelza, and how beautiful they were. Okay, so I'm very proud to say that it's in very good condition. How old is it? 75, 85, 95, 105, 115. It's 40 years old. Goodness me. The Poldark Saga. Winston Graham's chronicle of romance and strife in a Cornish family begins on Sunday, BBC One. Page 4, the chronicler chronicled. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to read as promised, and I hope I haven't got too much glare in my glasses. I apologise if I have. I've tried to raise my computer a little to stop it. Okay, so we've got book 2 of Demelza, and it's part of chapter 4, and it is all about when Ross went on a shopping spree with on his way to see Jim at Launceston Gaol, and he had Dwight Ennis, the doctor, accompany him. To keep Ginny from worrying, she was not told, but Demelza was prepared to worry over her own man. She never liked Ross going into the confined atmosphere of a prison, which was poisonous at the best, and a journey as far as Launceston across the dangerous wastes of the Bodmin Moors seemed set with every kind of hazard. They left after an early breakfast, and when they reached Truro, Ross did some shopping. Mistress Trelasks, just taking the sheets of her stock, was fluttered by the arrival of a tall, serious-looking man who introduced himself and said he understood Mistress Trelasks had been patronized by his wife and knew her measurements. This being so, he had a mind to buy a new evening gown for his wife, to be made and delivered for the celebration ball. Mistress Trelasks, like a hen caught in a small shed, fluttered and flapped noisily, bringing down in hasty confusion new silk satins and brocades, and tonkadales and velours, before the sting in the end of her visitor's sentence made her qualify the sale by the grave doubt of her ability to make anything in the time, so much being already on hand. Her visitor, who had shown interest in an expensive silver brocade silk, thereupon took up his hat and wished her good morning. Mistress Trelasks immediately flapped a great deal more, and called up her daughter. They chirped together, and made little notes, and played with pins, while the shopper tapped his boot. Then they said they would see what they could do. "It is a condition of sale, you understand." "Yes," said Miss Trelasks, wiping away a tear. "I take it so, sir." "Very well, then. Let us have the business in hand. But you must aid me in it, for I have no knowledge of women's things, and want the latest and the best." "We'll see you get everything after the most fashionable rate," said Mrs. Trelasks. "When could Mrs. Poldark call for a fitting?" "There will be no fitting unless it is on the day of the assembly," Ross said. "I want this as a surprise. If it is not quite right, my wife can call in the afternoon." At this there were more flutterings, but the floodgates of concession were already open, and they presently agreed. Later Ross made for a tiny shop with a creaking sign, which read S. Solomon, Goldsmith and Pewterer. "I want to see something for a lady," he said. "Something to wear in her hair or round her neck. I have not the time to examine many pieces." The tall old man bent his head to lead Ross into the dark room at the back, and brought out a tray with 6 necklaces, 3 cameo brooches, a few pearl bracelets for the wrist, 8 rings. There was nothing that attracted him. The largest of the pearl necklaces was priced at £30, which seemed more than its value. "Pearls are so fashionable, sir. We cannot get them. All the smaller ones are used for decorating gowns and hats. Have you nothing else?" "It does not pay me to have better things, sir. Perhaps I could get you something made?" "I wanted it for next week," the shopkeeper said. "I have one little thing I bought from a seaman. Could that interest you?" He took out a gold filigree brooch, set with a single good ruby and a circlet of small pearls. It was foreign, probably Venetian or Florentine. The man watched Ross's eyes as he picked it up. "What is the price?" "It is worth at least £120, but I might wait long for a sale, and I do not fancy to risk it by mail to Plymouth. I will take 100 guineas. "I'll not pretend to bargain," Ross said, "but £90 was the amount I had set aside to spend." The shopkeeper bowed slightly. "I do not bargain myself. Do you, pardon me, intend to pay by cash?" "By draft on Pascoe's bank. I will pay today, and call for the brooch this day week." "Very good, sir. I will take 90 guineas." Ross rejoined Dwight in time to take the coach, and they were in Bodmin early in the afternoon. There the coach stayed long enough for people to eat a meal, and for Ross to discover that the rumour he had come to sound was no rumour at all. Jim had gone. They missed their meal, but caught the coach on its last stage. As it set out for the long, lonely trek across the Bodmin moors, among the barren hills and the woodless valleys, Ross noticed that the driver and his companion each carried a musket on the box beside them. But today the crossing was uneventful, and they had leisure to admire the changing colours of the land under a play of blue sky and cloud. They reached Launceston soon after 7 and took rooms in the White Hart. Thank you for listening.